а что касается как бы международного сообщества, ну, я думаю, что все-таки нам нужна поддержка больше. Ну, то есть они получили опыт в Афганистане, в Ираке, а мы сейчас учимся на своих ошибках своей крови. Поверьте, что мы встречали разных людей. Мы встречали и местных, сепаратистов.
You all right?
So, ребята, то есть теперь вы все заняли позицию, БМП приезжает через мостик.
We're here in Western Ukraine on a Canadian-led battalion training mission, Operation Unifier. This is Canada's largest foreign military training mission after Iraq. And today, Ukrainians are learning specialized warfare.
С ними будет канадец, он будет ему говорить, когда стрелять, когда не стрелять.
So right now, this is a Canadian officer who's teaching Ukrainian soldiers everything from a platoon clearing a trench to urban warfare. What's interesting is that these trenches are particularly done in a Russian style, which is what they're actually facing in eastern Ukraine. This is a Russian-style trench, right?
Exactly, Russian doctrine.
So what you're trying to do here is almost update Ukrainian troops with NATO style.
We're mixing NATO style and prepare them for any possible occurrence.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean,
It's pretty tough to ignore that.
yeah, we try to adapt to what they might face maybe one day.
But this scenario isn't exactly hypothetical for these Ukrainian soldiers. As soon as this training ends in a few days, most of them will be heading straight to the real trenches of a very real and very brutal war against Russian-backed separatists. Vice has been covering the conflict in Ukraine since day one. We saw the peaceful Maidan protests turn violent. We watched as Putin then invaded and annexed Crimea from Ukraine.
Крым и Севастополь возвратились в родную страну.
We witnessed Russian-backed separatists take control of part of eastern Ukraine. And soon after, we were there when a full-scale war erupted. And now, in 2016, we're back as the conflict still simmers and is taking on massive international proportions. Both Russia and NATO members have moved tens of thousands of troops along the shared border. Russia is sending soldiers and weapons to separatists, while NATO and its members are openly providing military assistance to the Ukrainian armed forces. In other words, Ukraine is turning into a classic proxy war between Russia and NATO members. And Canada is taking on a major role.
Canada stands firmly beside Ukraine in response to Russia's illegal annexation of Crimea, as well as its support to insurgents in eastern Ukraine.
Canada sent nearly $1 billion in foreign assistance, including the military training you're seeing here.
Ребята, организовано.
But they prefer the term ongoing professionalization, rather than saying they're training them to fight Russians.
It all started back in 2014, where the government of Ukraine asked Canada to provide a military contribution to Ukraine, trying to enhance the reform process of the Ukrainian armed forces.
Right, and also 2014 coincided with the invasion of Crimea.
Right, but the entire process would go on no matter what. It happens to coincide with the threat that they are facing right now. We feel that they are empowered to have better chances of survivability and lethality on the battlefield. So for us, that's a good thing.
The position of the West is we are not at war with Russia. Even though we're making battle plans, we're deploying, conventional military forces in places that we haven't done for 25 plus years, and we're providing assistance to people who are directly at war. And the fact that the West hasn't embraced it publicly definitely raises questions about what its long-term future is. But if you are looking at this from Moscow's perspective, NATO has arrived, the cavalry is here to help their ally to fight a war against us.
So today was all about the theatrics of war in a lot of ways. We saw well-rehearsed battle sequences, with live fire. But it's important to remember that we're going to be heading to eastern Ukraine, where it's real.
From the peaceful west, we head east. And the closer we get to separatist-controlled territories, the more signs of war and destruction we encounter.
So in recent weeks, checkpoints that are really close to the contact lines with Russian separatists have been getting ambushed. So you can imagine some of these soldiers are pretty tense. They're kind of vetting who's going in and out.
We make our way to the edge of government-controlled territory. The front line runs through the village of Avdiivka, a strategic stronghold and the hottest point of conflict in all of Ukraine. So far, this war has claimed nearly 10,000 lives, 3,000 of which were civilians, while displacing over 1.5 million people. But not everyone has somewhere to go. Those who remain find themselves caught between the Ukrainian armed forces and the Russian-backed separatists.
Вот тихо-тихо, пока это, а ночью все начинается.
There's no military around here.
Нет.
So why are they shelling here?
Ну, потому что ненависть и...
This place is littered with shell holes.
There is a grenade in there.
There's bullet holes everywhere from high-velocity weapons.
Жена в подвале спит.
Там у меня возле этого я ставлю такой топчанчик возле стеночки, туда опускаюсь.
So you don't think the war is over?
Еще хуже.
So this is how surreal this image is right now. I'm standing in front of a pizzeria, there's Europop playing, there's kids playing on a merry-go-round, and in the background, there's the tack-tack-tack of gunfire and shelling, and nobody is batting an eyelash.
Хотя дети вечером. Там стреляют, а дети на качелях.
Has this building been shelled before?
А вон у нас стекло, витрина. Вот эта витрина целая, потому что рисунок держит. Вот. Вот это за счет рисунка, это целое стекло.
Yeah. So some people have tape, and other people have male models.
У всех вот такие были, все стекла, может, целые. И мы уже не, мы же ждем, хоть что-то договорились. Хоть что-то договорились. Хотя бы, пусть бы договаривались, но хоть бы не стреляли. Ну.
After 2 years of diplomatic negotiations, not much has changed for people here in Avdiivka. The Minsk ceasefire agreement, signed by both sides in 2014 and again in 2015, failed. And despite an upswing in fighting, NATO and Canada still insist the collapsed ceasefire protocol is the best solution for peace in the region.
Ceasefire violations occur on a daily basis. All parties must fully implement the Minsk agreements.
But these aren't exactly minor ceasefire violations. Thousands of bullets are exchanged every single day along this contact line, ranging from automatic weapons to 152mm artillery, and the body count is only rising.
NATO can't say there is no peaceful solution. There has to be at least going through the motions of saying, well, we're talking to the Russians. Because otherwise it is an acknowledgement of a war or a proxy war or a conflict, which so far has not been NATO's position. So why Minsk? Because we don't have anything else.
Canada's attempt to professionalize this post-Soviet military is happening alongside the war, but only a few hundred soldiers have benefited. Ukrainian special forces we're with today are among the lucky few hundreds. They conduct covert operations inside separatist-held territories, sabotage, kill and capture missions, rescue ops, and conventional stormtrooping. They're the guys you're seeing with the masks on right now. They agreed to escort us to an undisclosed close-quarter combat zone referred to as the Prom Zone, just outside of Avdiivka, to witness the failed ceasefire for ourselves. No Canadian video crew has entered here before, and access is limited.
So is it just the freedom of movement in kind of these areas, is it really controlled by the commander?
The entrance to combat zone?
Yeah.
Of course. You can steal or make some copy of journalist ID, go to combat zone, make a snapshot of the position, sell this information to terrorists.
We're going?
Yes. Ukrainian special forces asked us to conceal their identity. They claim separatists and Russian intel targets them. The blurred buildings you're seeing are distinct locations that could allow anyone using Google Maps to identify the exact location of their advanced position.
Hey guys, few words about your safety. This is our assemble point, okay? If anything going bad, Just one here.
If you look over my shoulder right here, that's the prom zone.
Oh, it starts. Told us to close the doors. This car is armored, so it can defend you. Ну, что-то тяжелее пошло, да? It's outgoing shelling from those sides. There's such this is in our side. Now you can hear the Minsk peace agreement.
The really interesting thing is how nervous and upset everybody is about what we can shoot, what we can't shoot. Judging by the sounds behind me, there's constantly something that's popping up. Oh, man.
Они как будто говорят нам «добрый вечер, мы здесь, мы никуда не ушли». На данный момент позиции противника находятся в той стороне, также там. Ну, то есть получается как бы почти по кругу.
Are they violating the Minsk agreement every single day?
Ну, насколько я знаю, Минские соглашения и подразумевают то есть прекращение любого огня. На данный момент вы слышите стрельбу со стрелкового оружия, это уже нарушение. И если вы останетесь сейчас здесь стрельбу артиллерии, это уже вопиющее нарушение.
Of course, the Special Forces favorably estimates Ukraine is responsible for less than 10% of violations and consider them to be in self-defense. But figures about which side is shooting what can't really be confirmed. Both sides accuse each other of indiscriminate attacks. The OSCE, a regional security watchdog in Europe, fears there's little incentive for either side to stop, especially considering the increased military backing by foreign allies like Canada.
I was just in Starichi, where there were some Western trainers training Ukrainian forces. Has that been a good thing? Has the influence been productive?
Ну, конечно, несомненно, это большая помощь, это большой опыт, который сейчас они идут на пользу нам. Может, через какое-то время мы сможем чем-то вам помочь каким-то опытом. Я уже здесь довольно давно, и поверьте, что мы встречали разных людей. Мы встречали и местных сепаратистов.
Mortal.
Can we continue?
Can we continue?
Свежо? Да. Да что только что там вот полетело бы на метров 40 дальше, но неизвестно, стояли бы мы здесь живы-здоровы сейчас. Осколки разлетаются, а хвост остается.
The deeper we move inside the conflict zone, the fewer signs of Canadian assistance we see. Still near Avdiivka, we visit these tired infantry reservists who've been manning trenches that look like they're from World War I.
The separatists are just 200 meters that way? So if you look over that way, it almost looks identical to some of the trenches we saw in Starichi.
Unlike some of the soldiers we met, they weren't selected for international training. To them, foreign assistance and diplomacy is just meaningless political speak.
Будем стоять, пока там решает. Потому что мы находимся вот на передке. Мы видим то, как происходит здесь. Откуда оно все происходит, неизвестно.
How do you feel about Western nations coming and training Ukrainian military? Does it actually do anything? Does it help?
Да, вони показують по телевізору, техніка хороша, да? Видається. Євросоюз видає хорошу техніку. Де в нас? Нас що залишилося з Совєтського Союзу техніка, на тій їздимо, да, вона хороша сама по собі. Ну, по суті, не видають нам тої техніки, те, що показують.
Ну, там, наприклад, прийдеться, я так кажу, прийде приказ освободити город, так? Захват вдома треба, щоб було освободити. Нас такого не обучали.
В любом случае, человек — это такое существо, что он адаптируется ко всему. Так же и мы. Поначалу было безумно, дико, страшно, но тем не менее, человек привыкает.
They're combat tested. They've gone from being, in many cases, green recruits or highly motivated volunteers, but not professionally trained and well-disciplined, to being a pretty professional fighting force. Does that mean that they're as effective, or that transformation has been as effective as it could have been without the kind of problems of corruption and chaos that you find uniquely in post-Soviet Ukraine? No, of course not. So the fact that the Brits send tens of thousands of winter uniforms and they disappear because they've all been sold off on the black market, that sort of thing shouldn't happen, but it did happen. It's an extremely messy conflict, and as a result, you get a messy fighting force.
This is the 9. Heavily shelled. Holy shit.
Oh, shit.
This place is eviscerated. The truly insane part, though, is that somebody still lives here. So there's no mine in there now, or it could be.
I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
This building, referred to as the 9, overlooks the Donetsk airport and prom zone, where we were earlier. It's a former apartment block now serving as a Ukrainian military outpost. And since December of 2015, the main observation point for international monitors in Avdiivka. As you can see, it's still feeling the effects of war.
Это моя. На тот момент, когда здесь шел обстрел этого дома, нас не было, слава богу. Но здесь находилась моя соседка. И погибла бабушка с внуком. Вот именно здесь, да, погибли они. Это стреляют.
Most of the damage being done, like what we see here, and the casualties, aren't caused by tanks or sniper fire. It's relentless artillery fire, one of the most destructive types of warfare.
Здесь жили. Ну иди, только аккуратно. Дочке 9 лет, она знает, с чего стреляют. И приблизительно, где оно падает.
Ночью практически спать невозможно.
Ну, мы услышим, да?
А?
Мы услышим.
Если услышим резкий свист, значит уже пора съебываться.
Значит, уже давно пора съебываться.
As night falls over residential neighborhoods in front of us, the heavier shells and mortars start. In accordance with the regional curfew, Avdiivka residents are confined to their homes, and a new rotation of soldiers man the rooftop. But OSCE, the international monitors, are long gone.
The guys from OSCE, they don't visit such places at night. They prefer to visit during the daytime, and after they go away, the sharing starts.
According to the Ukrainian army, fighting statistically kicks up by 70% once they leave. Civilians repeatedly call on the international monitors to extend their presence in Avdiivka overnight. But their mission is limited to fact-finding, not peacekeeping.
Сюда просто пару раз они поднялись, тут прилетело пару осколочков, и они решили тут уже не сидеть.
After dark, the monitors rely on cameras and drones to detect fighting in the area, and attempts to shoot them down are a common occurrence. Both Russian-backed separatists and Ukrainian forces also use unmanned aerial vehicles to track enemy movements. Locking down their coordinates from above means ground units can then shoot using precise targeting technology. The OSCE monitors claim their survey drones often get used as cover by armed groups to get their own drones safely into enemy territory, but they can't confirm who.
It's that familiar sound again. Artillery shells, dogs barking, and guns. And a lot of this is happening just over in the prom zone, where we were earlier.
Most probably it's a UAV. In the right.
Drone.
Where?
The eerie thing is, though, there's a bunch of drones flying around, and periodically you see tracer fire go directly into the sky, trying to shoot them down. There's even some gliding by here. What's what? What just happened? What just... Basically what ended up happening was a tracer round went in our direction. A tracer round is usually some sort of directional bullet showing where to shoot for a unit. At the same time, we saw a lot of drones in the sky, so it's not out of the question that we were being monitored from eyes in the sky.
During that 24-hour period, 4,954 violations were reported along the contact line, including 152mm artillery and multiple launch rocket systems from both sides. And Avdiivka took the brunt of it.
To stop a major Russian offensive, there's no question the Ukrainians would need weapons that they don't currently have in enough supply. So that's why you have, by the way, you have Ukrainian politicians coming all the time to Washington and to Ottawa as well, making the argument, we're fighting your war. This is a war, the front line of democracy against tyranny.
And yet they're supporting it enough to make it kind of death by 1,000 cuts on either side.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that is a classic foreign policy dilemma for major powers in the world.
I was there, and I can tell you that there was certainly no ceasefire going on. Where's this going? What's the worst case scenario?
There's one path where the worst case scenario is an indefinite frozen conflict in southeastern Ukraine, which is something like 10 times the size of any of the other post-Soviet frozen conflicts. But that nightmare scenario is actually pretty minimal compared with the bigger nightmare path. And that path begins in Ukraine, but it really doesn't end in Ukraine. The Ukraine crisis, the war in Ukraine, has inspired both sides, both the Russian side and the NATO side, to essentially remilitarize their frontiers. American troops are moving in, German, British, Canadian, etc. But on the Russian side, the same thing is happening. And this is the tragedy, right? The Russians can move, 10 divisions into place in a week if they want to. So you can see where this nightmare scenario goes. This goes to World War III. So we're looking at two distinct nightmare scenarios, both of which are very possible.
As the war enters its third year, NATO members, including Canada, claim the failed ceasefire is still the way to go. But there's no end in sight. Canada insists its efforts are strictly diplomatic, but an increased military presence in the region makes Canada one of the biggest contributors to the fight against Russian aggression. Vice asked Global Affairs Canada for an on-camera interview. They declined but sent us a statement. Canada remains committed to supporting Ukraine in its efforts to maintain sovereignty, security, and stability. But in the face of mounting violence, Canada does not provide lethal aid to Ukraine. So the question becomes, if the conflict with Russia escalates into a full-blown war with the West, just how much further is Canada willing to go?